Okay, so for this wig, I used a total of 13 packs of kanekalon braiding hair, and I turned about 11 of those packs into crochet braids. As you can see, if you don't know how to do that or you don't have the patience, because it took me about maybe 2, 3 days to get all of the crochet braids done. So if you don't have the patience for it, then you can just buy the already made crochet braids. And as you can see, I am just sewing them onto the cap, normal stitching, very easy, very simple to do. So to avoid me having to constantly cut the thread and tie the ends, retie the thread, and begin sewing again every time I wanted to put on a new crochet braid, I just continue with the thread. So you can see I did not cut anything. I just pushed the needle through the wig cap in another section, pushed the needle through the opening of my crochet braid, slide it onto the cap, and put 3 stitches in it to keep it secured. And then I moved right along to the next crochet braid, and I do this over the entire cap. It saves so much time this way. Again, I just slide the needle into the cap where I want to lay down my next crochet braid. I put the needle through the opening, slide the braid onto the cap, and then put down 3, 4 stitches, however many you feel is necessary to keep that braid secured. And then I move right on to the next braid. And I'm putting my fingers in between each braid and the little thumbs up to show you that, okay, another thumbs up, cool. To show you that you want to space out your braids like at least more than, a finger width apart, if that makes any sense. But you don't want the braids to be too close because you don't want your wig to obviously be bulky. And the more bulky it is, the less realistic it looks. So be sure to space out your braids extremely well, especially in the back. And another tip, just as if you were normally braiding someone's hair, you would make sure that each braid falls in between the other. Like, you don't want the braids to be stacked on top of each other. That's the same thing you're going to do for this wig. Make sure they're spaced out evenly. And also you're going to make sure that as you are moving up row by row with your crochet braids, that each braid falls in between the space at the bottom of it. So right here, I pushed my needle through the cap, let the thread fall where I want the braid, right in the middle of those two braids at the bottom, and I stitch it in there so everything is laying down nice and flat, nothing is bulking up, and that is going to help to make sure that you don't add too much braids onto your cap and you don't bulk it up too much. And right here I'm showing you how I end each thread when I'm running out. I just cut it, tie 2, 3, maybe 4 knots into it to keep it secured. Then I cut the ends that I didn't tie, and I start off with a new piece of thread. Okay, so here I'm just showing that I already sewed on my closure and I have already braided it. I used maybe 2 or 3 packs to finish braiding the closure, and it all depends on how big or how small you want your braids to be. And something that I think is super important to me, especially when I get to the front of the braid of the wig, I make sure that I take my crochet braids as close to the edge as possible. So you see that one of the braids is braided right on the edge of the cap. That is super important because sometimes I want to pull some of my hair back and I don't really want people to see the wig cap. Although, like, it's kind of obvious that it's a wig that I'm wearing, but still, they don't need to see the band of my cap, so I make sure that I sew the braids right on to that band. And I am literally just going to keep going, keep sewing until I get right on to my closure. And yeah. And with some of the braids, I even sew them on to the end of the closure just to, cover up the end of that closure a little bit more, especially where you could see that I use, black thread to sew the closure down. So I go right up on it with the braids to cover that up a bit. Okay, and I'm showing you guys how it looks. It's not too bulky. Everything is covered. You only can see spaces in the cap, obviously, when you lift up the braids. But you don't have to worry about that when you're out. Nobody's going to see any of those spaces, so you're good to go. And at this point, I went back throughout the cap, and the braids that I had left over, well, at least some of the braids that I had left over, I went through the cap and I found, spaces where, okay, this is a really big gap. Maybe I can add one or two more braids there, and I just sewed them on. And now I'm showing you where I cut off the excess cap that's underneath my lace. And now this is like maybe 2 or 3 days later, and I'm going to try on the wig. And I don't know why I didn't put on a wig cap. I guess it wasn't really necessary. So we're just going to pop it on and adjust it. Making sure that that white elastic band that I sewed onto the inside of my wig isn't showing. I didn't have any black elastic, so I had to work with what I had. Now I want to style the wig a little bit, so I'm just taking a few braids from the side of my wig and I'm just going to tie it in the back. To lay down the wig, I'm using my Got To Be Freeze It spray. I'm going to lay down the little baby hairs that I cut in the front of my closure down a bit. Then I'm going in with a face powder that matches my skin color, and I'm just going to cover up some of those dark knots that are still on my closure. And after all of that, I'm going to tie down my wig for a little bit and just let everything dry. Okay, and that's it. I absolutely love this wig, and I love the fact that I can just pop on some box braids every day and just go. This wig is super beautiful, super easy to make, and yeah, that is all.